Hey friends, before we jump into the story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and support the channel. It really means a lot. Thank you. At my wedding, my sister unveiled an AI-crafted video showing me with another man, the audio blaring for the entire reception hall to hear. My mother-in-law stood up, shouting, "I knew she was never good enough for our family." I turned to my husband, pleading, "It's not true, I was only ever with you." But he lashed out, shoving me so hard I collapsed onto the floor, my wedding dress tearing against the polished wood. My parents rushed over, their faces twisted with fury. My mother slapped me, her voice shrill. "You've shamed us all. How will we ever live this down?" My father's slap followed, his words cutting deeper. "You're a disgrace to this family." Then my sister stepped forward, smirking. "I warned you she was no good," she said to my husband. "To spare you all this disgrace, I'll step up and marry him myself." My husband hurried to her side, gratitude in his eyes. "You've saved us," he said. Then he leaned over me, spitting, "Don't you dare move until everyone's gone." I stayed silent, crumpled on the floor in my ruined gown, as 250 guests shuffled out, their whispers like knives. A week later, I unleashed a plan that left them all reeling. My name is Emily Harper, and this is how my family betrayed me, and how I made them pay in ways they never expected. It was supposed to be the perfect day. 3 years of planning had gone into every detail, selecting peonies and roses, tasting gourmet menus, envisioning my walk down the aisle to marry James Bennett, the man I'd loved since our days at the University of Chicago. I was a computer science major, spending late nights coding, while James pursued his MBA, heir to Bennett Luxury Motors, a chain of high-end car dealerships across Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. His family's wealth was vast, but he never made me feel lesser for my middle-class roots, or so I thought. The morning of September 12 dawned bright and crisp. I was in the bridal suite at the Drake Hotel, surrounded by soft light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows, the air scented with lilies and my perfume. My best friend and maid of honor, Lauren Carter, a data scientist who'd flown in from Seattle, helped me into my dress. A custom lace gown with a flowing train that cost more than my old Honda. James had insisted I deserved the best, brushing off the price tag with his easy charm. "You're my queen," he'd said when we picked it out. My sister Natalie was supposed to be there, but she arrived 2 hours late, muttering about technical issues with a surprise for the reception. Her eyes barely met mine, which hurt more than I wanted to admit. Growing up in our modest Evanston home, Natalie had always been the golden child, charismatic, effortlessly beautiful, the one who drew attention while I buried myself in algorithms and sci-fi novels. We'd been close once, sharing secrets and late-night talks, but in recent years, her envy had surfaced in subtle digs about my success or James's affection. "You ready, Em?" she asked, her voice flat, almost mocking. I chalked it up to nerves and focused on the day ahead. The ceremony at Holy Name Cathedral was a vision. The Gothic arches soared above 250 guests, their faces glowing with anticipation. When the organ swelled and the doors opened, I saw James at the altar, his dark hair perfectly styled, his green eyes catching the light. My father, William Harper, walked me down the aisle, his grip firm with pride. My mother, Diane Harper, dabbed her eyes in the front row, her smile radiant. Even James's mother, Margaret Bennett, seemed warm, a rare shift from her usual icy demeanor during our 2-year engagement. We exchanged vows, mine heartfelt, his polished, and sealed them with a kiss. For those hours, I was weightless, wrapped in the promise of our future. The reception at the Peninsula Hotel sparkled with elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow over tables draped in ivory linens, and our first dance to Can't Help Falling in Love felt like a scene from a movie. James held me close, whispering, "You're my forever, Mrs. Bennett." I floated through toasts and laughter, surrounded by friends, family, and colleagues who traveled from across the country. Then Natalie stood up, tapping her glass. "I have a special tribute for my sister, Emily," she said, her smile tight. I beamed, expecting a heartfelt speech, maybe a funny childhood story. Lauren, sitting beside me, frowned. She was supposed to give the maid of honor toast later. "Emily's always been creative with the truth," Natalie began, her voice laced with something venomous. My stomach twisted. "So, I thought you all should see who she really is." She connected her tablet to the venue's AV system, and the massive screens around the ballroom flickered to life. My breath caught as I saw myself, or a version of myself. Same chestnut hair, same hazel eyes, same voice in a graphic scene with a man who wasn't James. The audio was explicit, the woman's words, my words, or so it seemed, crude and damning. I found this on her old computer, Natalie announced to the horrified crowd. James deserves to know who he married. The room froze, 250 pairs of eyes on the screens. I recognized the technology instantly. A deepfake, an AI-generated forgery superimposing my face onto someone else's body. My computer science degree and cybersecurity internships gave me the knowledge to spot it, but explaining that to a stunned audience was futile. "Turn it off," I screamed, stumbling toward Natalie. She jerked the tablet away, sneering, "Let them see the truth." Margaret Bennett leapt to her feet, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "I always knew she was trouble, too low class for our family." The crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. I turned to James, my heart pounding. "It's not real, James, it's AI, I can prove it." But his face was a mask of rage. Without warning, he shoved me hard, sending me crashing to the floor, my dress ripping at the seam. "Don't touch me," he snarled, his voice dripping with disgust. Before I could stand, my parents stormed forward. My mother's slap stung my cheek, her eyes wild. "You've ruined us," she screamed. My father's hand followed, harder, his face crimson. "How could you disgrace us like this?" Natalie stepped forward, her expression a mockery of sympathy. "I told you she was no good," she said to James. "To save your family's honor, I'll marry you myself." James rushed to her, his face softening. "You've saved us all," he said. Then he bent over me, spitting on the floor beside my face. "Stay down until everyone's gone." I lay there, the cold floor biting into my skin as guests filed out. Some looked at me with pity, others with contempt. Lauren tried to intervene, shouting that the video was fake, but security escorted her out. When the ballroom was empty, save for a few staff averting their eyes, I stood. My ribs ached, my face burned, and my heart was in pieces. But beneath the pain, a fire roared to life. For the next week, I locked myself in a downtown hotel room, the city's skyline a constant reminder of the life I'd lost. My phone buzzed endlessly, calls from relatives, texts from friends, and cruel messages from strangers as clips of my wedding disaster went viral. Natalie had posted the video online, framing herself as the noble sister who exposed my lies. 3 days later, she and James announced their engagement, with local headlines gushing about the heroic wedding rescue. The betrayal cut deeper each time I saw their smiling faces on social media. But I wasn't crying anymore. I was planning. My hotel room became a war room, cluttered with takeout containers, energy drinks, and stacks of printouts, bank statements, emails, screenshots. My laptop ran nonstop, processing data with tools I'd built during my cybersecurity internships. Natalie had made a fatal mistake. She underestimated me. My tech skills weren't just a degree, they were a weapon, and I was ready to wield them. I started with the deepfake. It took 3 sleepless nights, fueled by coffee and rage, to dissect the video. The metadata revealed it was created on Natalie's laptop 3 weeks before the wedding, using professional-grade AI software costing thousands. I traced the source footage to a paid adult site, accessed via Natalie's account. She wasn't tech-savvy enough to pull this off alone, and her part-time event planning job didn't cover the software's price tag. Someone had helped her. Next, I turned to James's finances. Using forensic accounting tools from my internships, I uncovered a web of theft. For over 2 years, he'd siphoned $420,000 from Bennett Luxury Motors into offshore accounts in Bermuda, Panama, and the Bahamas. The theft spiked 6 months ago, coinciding with Natalie's shift in behavior. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and flirty text messages proved they'd been having an affair for nearly a year, funded by his stolen money. But James wasn't exclusive with Natalie. I found evidence of at least 4 other women models, influencers, even a coworker, wined and dined with company funds. Natalie thought she'd won him, but she was just another pawn in his game. James's crimes went beyond infidelity. He was running a sophisticated scam at the dealership, reporting high-end cars as stolen, collecting insurance payouts, and selling the vehicles to shady buyers for cash. The scheme netted him an additional $200,000, with titles forged to cover his tracks. This wasn't just betrayal, it was federal fraud. My parents were next. Their weak email passwords, My mother's was literally Diane 123, made hacking child's play. I found my father's 3-year affair with his assistant, Karen Mitchell, at the nonprofit where he worked, supporting homeless youth. They'd embezzled $28,000, funneling it into a joint account for lavish weekends. My mother knew but stayed silent, consumed by her own secret, a gambling addiction that had drained their retirement savings and racked up $85,000 in credit card debt. They'd taken a second mortgage to pay for my college tuition, a sacrifice they'd lorded over me, only to gamble away the repayment funds. Their desperation for me to marry James now made sense. They saw his wealth as their lifeline. Margaret Bennett's secrets were the ugliest. She wasn't just a judgmental socialite, she was running a prescription drug ring, supplying opioids to Chicago's wealthy elite. Working with a crooked doctor and pharmacist, she forged prescriptions for non-existent patients, netting $210,000 in a year. The money propped up the Bennett family's facade of wealth, as their dealerships were drowning in $3 million of debt. Worse, one of her clients, a 32-year-old father named Daniel Hayes, had overdosed on her pills, leaving his wife and 2 children devastated. Margaret knew about the death and kept selling, her greed outweighing any guilt. The Bennett empire was a house of cards. Loans were in default, business partners were circling, and Margaret's drug money was the only thing keeping them afloat. But the deepfake's origins were the key to unraveling the conspiracy. I traced the video to Pixelcraft Studios, a Chicago firm specializing in digital effects for commercials and private custom projects. Posing as a client, I called their owner, Greg Larson, who boasted about creating convincing videos for $6,500. Natalie couldn't afford that, nor did she have the skills to navigate their software. Her emails revealed the mastermind, Margaret Bennett. A year ago, she'd approached Natalie, knowing James's crimes would soon surface. She needed a way to protect the family's reputation and saw me as the perfect scapegoat. Her plan was simple. Natalie would seduce James, and when their affair was discovered, I'd be painted as the unfaithful one. Natalie, craving the spotlight, escalated the scheme, proposing the deepfake to destroy me entirely. Margaret funded the video, connected Natalie with Pixelcraft, and coached her on the wedding day reveal for maximum humiliation. She'd also sent anonymous texts to my parents, planting doubts about my character weeks before the wedding. They thought I'd vanish in shame. They didn't know I was a cybersecurity expert with a knack for uncovering secrets. I spent 6 days building my case, working 18-hour stretches in my hotel room. I compiled bank records, email chains, video metadata, and victim statements. Lauren flew back from Seattle, bringing her law enforcement contacts to verify my findings. We analyzed the deepfake frame by frame, confirming its AI origins with software logs and source files. "This is nuclear," Lauren said, staring at my evidence wall, post-its and printouts mapping the conspiracy. "Are you sure, Emily? This will ruin them all, your parents, too." I met her gaze, my jaw set. "They ruined me first. They assaulted me, humiliated me, and abandoned me when I needed them most. They don't get to walk away." To minimize collateral damage, I contacted James's sister, Claire Bennett, a social worker who'd been ostracized by the family for her progressive views. She was stunned but grateful, using my warning to protect her finances before the scandal broke. I also reached out to dealership employees, tipping them off about the impending collapse so they could start job hunting. For Daniel Hayes's family, I prepared a detailed report on Margaret's drug ring, giving them evidence for their own legal fight. On the 7th day, I launched my counterattack. Phase 1, Law Enforcement. I sent tailored evidence packets to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division, the DEA, the Chicago PD, the Illinois State Police, and the DA's office. Each included bank records, emails, and victim testimonies, cross-referenced for their jurisdictions. Phase 2, Regulators. The Insurance Commission received proof of James's fraud, the medical board got Margaret's drug scheme, and the nonprofit oversight board learned of my father's embezzlement. Phase 3, Media. I sent press releases to the Chicago Sun-Times, Tribune, CNN, and tech outlets like Wired, framing the story as a warning about deepfakes and betrayal. My trump card was James's own arrogance. Like many criminals, he documented his crimes, keeping texts, call recordings, and photos for leverage. A recorded call from 3 days before the wedding was gold. Margaret said, "Get rid of Emily. Natalie's video will bury her." James replied, "Once she's gone, we can do whatever we want." It was proof of conspiracy, fraud, and defamation. I sent it to every outlet, knowing it would ignite a firestorm. Within 24 hours, the story exploded. Deepfake wedding scandal, sister's AI video destroys bride, headlined the Tribune. CNN ran a segment on AI dangers. The Wall Street Journal covered the dealership's collapse, and X was ablaze with deepfake wedding. Margaret was arrested for drug trafficking, her bail set at $450,000. James faced charges for embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering, with no hope of making bail. The dealership crumbled as manufacturers cut ties and banks froze accounts. I leaked my parents' secrets to their church and my father's employer. His affair and theft got him fired, and their gambling debts forced bankruptcy. They lost their home and moved to a cramped apartment in Indiana. Natalie faced my civil lawsuit for defamation and emotional distress. With no money for a lawyer, she represented herself and lost, owing me $2.7 million. 3 weeks later, I saw Natalie at a Loop coffee shop. She looked haggard, unwashed hair, sunken eyes, wearing wrinkled clothes. "Emily, please," she begged, tears streaming. "You've destroyed us. James is in jail, Mom and Dad lost everything, I can't get a job. I was jealous, okay? He manipulated me." I sipped my latte, unmoved. "You made a fake video to ruin me in front of everyone I loved. You broke my marriage, my family, my life. You're not my sister anymore." Over the next year, justice rolled out. James pleaded guilty to fraud and embezzlement, receiving 9 years in prison and $1.2 million in restitution. Margaret got 4 years for her drug ring, her socialite status reduced to ashes. Natalie became a pariah, her engagement to James imploding as they turned on each other in court. My parents, shunned by their community, lived in obscurity, their hypocrisy exposed. I moved to Seattle, joining Lauren's tech firm as a cybersecurity consultant. The scandal, though painful, made me a sought-after expert on AI ethics and digital fraud. I spoke at TED Talks and consulted for Fortune 500 companies. At a conference, I met Daniel Chen, a cybersecurity lawyer who'd helped with my lawsuits. He was kind, principled, and saw me for who I was, not a victim, but a survivor. My new life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'd lost a family but gained a purpose. And somewhere, in the wreckage of their lies, I found my strength.